What's up YouTube, Hot Soup here. Thanks for clicking on the video. This is the first one for the channel and I'm using it to talk about New World. Why, you may ask? I realize New World isn't doing very well right now. The game has lost over 90% of their launch day concurrent player numbers. It's riddled with bugs, the warring systems are being abused, PvP is a mess of desyncs and lag, and the PvE content is very much lacking at endgame. So it's no surprise the content creators for New World have dried up a bit. I really don't blame them, but I do think the game has a really interesting hook, and the combat is incredibly unique for the MMO genre. So I convinced myself to step up to the plate and create that content myself. I love to talk about this game. Just a little bit about me. I have a software development background. I went to school to study computer science. For that reason, I have a particular interest in the nuts and bolts of how the game is designed and how they came to some of the decisions that they did make. I think actually the game is just a few tweaks and content patches away from being something really great. I want to be here when the devs turn things around. What a great story that would be. So if you want to come on this journey with me, please like and subscribe the video. I'm just starting out. I would appreciate your support greatly. Hansu. At the time of this recording, the February patch just snuck in on the last day of February. It really did address a lot of the issues that the player base has had since launch. Fast travel is practically free now. Lots of bug quests got addressed. The XP requirements for crafting and even fishing got lowered. And one of the biggest improvements they made was to the Umbral upgrade system. So now you can upgrade your gear to the max level of 625 by doing more than just the mutated dungeons. You can get them in OPR now. You get a lot of them just crafting your cast if you're at max expertise. I think all of those changes were really well received. But, you know, as the title of the video states, I do think there are a couple things that the devs really need to address that I have seen no sign of them mentioning in any of their blogs or videos. And it may not be so obvious to the average player. Now, I'm confident that the devs are aware, and it's just part of the focus with the content updates expected in the coming weeks and months. But I don't know why they don't talk about it. So I want to get into it and kind of lay it out for everybody and see if you guys agree with me that this is something that really needs to be prioritized. Loot is why we play, let's be real. Now, New World unfortunately suffers from a bad case of RNG chlamydia is what I like to call it. The upgrades you're looking for are so hard to come by, it eventually just numbs you to the whole experience. You just end up scrapping everything that you come across without a second thought. And I really didn't realize how bad it was until I got close to hitting level 60. But make no mistake, the issue is prevalent from the minute you step onto that beach after the tutorial. Armor is the worst culprit, but weapons can be just as bad. Just weapons have named drops with preset perks and attributes that somewhat mitigates the issue, but it can truly be just as frustrating. Now, the root cause is simple. It's basically the amount of variables in their gearing system slamming up against their RNG implementation. They've implemented the bare minimum expected for a loot-based game. There's just too many dice rolls. It's the scummiest slot machine in Vegas, and it drives me batty. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's take armor, for example. Armor has to roll on all of the following when it drops. The item's armor weight, so that's the light, medium, or heavy classification. Depending on what your role is or what weapon you're speccing for, this is really important. Then you have your gear score. Everyone's trying to get to 600 gear score after level 60, so pretty much anything lower than 600 is somewhat worthless. They mitigated this a bit with the Umbral upgrade system. Now you can upgrade anything from 590 up to 625. However, you really want to get the maximum number of perks on your armor slots. So you're really chasing that 600 gear score drop or craft to be able to upgrade to 625. Then you have the quality level. So this is the color coding. You know, grays, greens, and blues are all junk. Purples you can still use to a certain extent after gear score 590. But really you're looking for that orange legendary drop. The attributes, this is important for your class system. Now, there are ways that you can spec around this if you really want to, but most people don't. Most people want to make sure that the attributes they get on their gear is applicable to the class and the weapon that they're running. Then you have the perks, which are arguably the most important thing that you're looking for on the armor piece. But look at how many layers you have to go through to get finally to the perk being useful. The system is unfortunately a victim of its own complexity. They want depth in how you build out your character, but without any ways to control or at least raise the chance for any of these attributes to be useful to you, the loot rewards are very unsatisfying. To hammer this point home, on the screen I've just completed a Lazarus Instrumentality dungeon run. At the time of this recording, it's the highest level dungeon you can run in the game. I've dumped everything into a neutral territory storage shed just to organize it easier. Let's go through the steps that I take to judge the rewards I've received. Now, my goal is to find something that's either an upgrade or something I can sell on the trading post. Every player has to go through this, and most call it a salvage chore. And let me show you exactly why. So the first thing I have to factor in is the rarity. I'm not going to really waste my time on anything that isn't a purple or an orange, so we got to get rid of those immediately. That leaves us with 20% that isn't immediately salvaged. So that leaves me with these purples, and if it's a low gear score, I'm not going to be able to use it. So if we sort by gear score and get rid of that, I'm left with just 3 items to review. Now there are some exceptions here. If there is a really good named item that I can upgrade to 600 to unlock the legendary version and get the 3rd perk, I'll do so. In this case, in this run, I didn't have anything like that. So it was very easy to just narrow it down to these 3. Now let's take a closer look at these 3. Unfortunately, the factors that I mentioned before come into play. Heavy pants aren't useful for my spec, and especially with an intelligence attribute, I'm not even going to even look at the perks. It's just not useful to me. On the gloves, it's a similar thing with the attributes. Intelligence strength isn't a great combination, so it's not really even worth looking at everything else. And then the spear, intelligence constitution is not useful, and really the perk isn't that great either. Now, if I could sell these, I would, but as you can see, they're all bind on pickup. Majority of the items that drop in dungeons are bind on pickup. I actually don't know what the factors are to have it bind on equip on drop. It doesn't seem to be tied to the rarity or the gear score exclusively. It seems to be a combination of those things that determine the bind on pickup. So that left me with 100% of everything in this run being salvaged. And that doesn't feel good. I don't want to come off as entitled here. I'm not expecting to get something that's an upgrade every run. No way. But I am expecting at least something to resell or get value out of the time that I spent. And unfortunately, the game just isn't providing that. I created this calculator to kind of determine what I was getting in the dungeons. And then I ran Lazarus 50 times. And the results speak for itself. That's right, 99.8% of everything that I received in these 50 runs was completely salvaged. Either they were bind on pickup, or the perks weren't what I was looking for or useful to me. The weight wasn't right. There's so many different factors that go into these rolls. It's just an absolute garbage system. And the devs really need to address it because it is hugely demotivating. And I'm sure it's a big factor in why people have left the game in droves. I hope this provided some insight into why the rewards feel so unsatisfying. It's very fixable by the devs. They could implement a weighted system that takes into account the weapons you have equipped or the attributes you've spec'd, then drive the types of drops you receive from those. Another quick and easy fix would be to get rid of the split attributes on the drops, like strength and intelligence, that most people don't want. The vast majority of players are just looking for their primary stat. There are meta builds out there that do benefit from split attributes, but they can leave those two options to strictly crafting. They need to also make a pass on all the perks and get rid of ones that the community feels ruins these pieces. Luck perks for harvesting and looting especially can be left out of drops and strictly be a crafting option. And finally, the amount of bind on pickup that's applied to drops needs to be reworked. It's something that I've seen people yell about since before the game's launch, but the devs have never addressed it. It makes the whole experience a complete downer, and it's led to me almost quitting the game on several occasions. Hey, thanks for listening. What do you think about New World's loot system? Do you feel satisfied with what's in the game right now? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you like the video, please hit that thumbs up. And if you want to hear me talk about other New World systems mechanics, please hit the subscribe button. That's how you let me know that I'm on the right track here. So thank you all, and see you in the next video.